His name is George Riekers. Remember that name? He was famous for being one of the founders of the Family Research Council, one of the original super anti-gay conservative culture war groups that became very influential in Republican politics. In the 1980s, George Riekers was a founder of the Family Research Council. He specifically worked in the part of anti-gay politics that says that people can be cured of the gay. It can be reversed with just the right therapy. Well, by 2010, there was George Riekers being photographed at the airport in Miami in the company of a handsome young man named Lucien, who Mr. Riekers had apparently met on rentboy.com. Mr. Riekers first tried to explain that he had taken this handsome young man on an all-expenses-paid 10-day trip to Europe because he needed help with his luggage. The young man himself, seen here, not helping with the luggage, eventually explained exactly what he was paid for on that European trip. And George Riekers ultimately resigned from his job at the anti-gay organization. In 2004, when Republican President George W. Bush was up for re-election, the Republican Party and the Bush campaign enthusiastically promoted bans on same-sex marriage in multiple states. They expected that anti-gay campaigning in as many states as possible would goose Republican turnout and help Bush's chances of being re-elected. You demonize gay people, scare people about gay rights, you get conservative voters to turn out, and they'll vote Republican while they're there. Bush was reelected in 2004. Those anti-gay state ballot initiatives very well may have helped with that. But then 2 years after Bush left the White House, the man who had been chairman of the Bush campaign at that time came out himself as gay. And to his credit, he then set about trying to right the wrong he had been part of by persuading leading Republicans to change their mind on marriage equality. And to persuade the Supreme Court to support marriage equality, which they have done at least for a while. But honestly, it's like you can't swing a cat without hitting one of these guys. I mean, those anti-gay ballot initiatives that were supposed to help George W. Bush get reelected in 2004, they got a big boost in 2004 when a group called the National Association of Evangelicals, huge influential religious group, decided in 2004 that they would emphatically restate their opposition to homosexuality in all its forms, which effectively endorsed all the anti-gay measures that the Republicans were promoting all over the country in advance of the election that year. The National Association of Evangelicals at that time was led by this man, Ted Haggard, who soon treated the country to not at all uncomfortable headlines like this one. Quote, "Evangelist, I bought meth from gay escort." Again, I mean, follow the bouncing ball. He found himself a very handsome man, and it was never totally clear if he paid the handsome man for sex using the drugs as the method of payment, or maybe if he paid the man for the sex and the drugs together, kind of like a meal deal or something. But yeah, president of the National Association of Evangelicals. I got a million of these guys. Trump's Oklahoma state campaign chairman from 2016 was a Republican state senator who voted as an Oklahoma state senator that businesses should be able to put up signs that said, "We don't serve gays here." Trump's campaign chairman in Oklahoma in 2016, busted in 2017 for soliciting sex from exactly who you'd think he'd be doing that from. The Republican mayor of Spokane, Washington, supported banning gay people from working in schools. Later revealed to be meeting new friends all the time at gay.com. His handle was Cobra82. Because of course it was Cobra82. Sure. I could go on. Really, I got a million of them. How much time do you have? This weekend was the Conservative Political Action Conference. It's an annual right-wing conference thing. Among the things you can reliably get at CPAC every year is anti-trans rhetoric by the dump truck full, and anti-gay sermonizing as well. This year was no exception. It's like that every year. CPAC is run by a man named Matt Schlapp. It has been for years. And in 2022, ahead of the congressional midterms, Mr. Schlapp was in Georgia. He was campaigning for the Republican nominee for Senate, Herschel Walker. Remember Herschel Walker's Senate campaign? The Walker campaign sent one of their mid-level staffers, a male staffer, to drive Matt Schlapp around. While in the car, Matt Schlapp allegedly put his hand on the young man's leg and then, quote, moved his hand and began aggressively fondling the staffer's genital area in a sustained fashion without the staffer's consent. The staffer claims that Mr. Schlapp then invited the staffer to his hotel room. He declined. Early last year, that young man sued Matt Schlapp for sexual battery. And as that lawsuit has dragged on, more allegations of sexual misconduct against Matt Schlapp have come to light. As part of discovery in that sexual battery lawsuit, lawyers for the Republican campaign staffer discovered that in 2017, at a CPAC party, Schlapp allegedly attempted to kiss a male employee against his wishes. They also discovered that at a fundraising event in 2022, Mr. Schlapp was accused of stripping down to his underwear and, forgive me, rubbing against another person without his consent. Now, Mr. Schlapp, for his part, has denied all allegations of wrongdoing. The lawsuit says that the American Conservative Union, the parent company to CPAC, which employs Matt Schlapp, knew about at least 2 of the allegations against Schlapp before they become public. But the lawsuit claims that the American Conservative Union has not only failed to remove Mr. Schlapp from his leadership position, they also failed to pursue any kind of investigation into the claims of sexual misconduct. And so, given that failure to do anything about the allegations, the American Conservative Union has now been added as a defendant in the Matt Schlapp sexual battery lawsuit. The organization has thus far spent upwards of $1 million on Matt Schlapp's legal fees to defend himself in the sexual battery case. But they have meanwhile kept him in place to run the big annual anti-gay conference. Because sure, that's fine. Who will notice?